What would you do if your faith was tested in the line of those who hated the Catholic faith? Last time on Martyrs, we looked at Aloysius Schmidt, a lay chaplain who was among the countless individuals that perished at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. This week we remember a lord from India who risked his life as a convert to Christianity. This is the story of the Mar known as Lazarus. This is the story of Devasahayam Pillai. Quick disclaimer though, I apologize in advance if I mispronounce any of the Indian names. Nilakandan Pi was born into an affluent Hindu Nair family in Nadalam in the present-day Kanyakumari district on April 23, 1712. His father, Vasudevan Nambudri, who was an Nambudrian Brahmin from the Kalakam in present-day Kerala state, was a priest at the Adikaseva Perumal Temple in Thrivatar, in the present-day Kanyakumari district of neighboring Tamil Nadu. Nilakandan's mother, Devaki Amma, hailed from Thiruvatar in Kanyakumari district. In accordance with the matrilineal tradition of the Nairs of the day, he was raised by his maternal uncle rather than his father. Nilakandan's family had much influence of the royal palace of Maharaja Martanda Varma, King of Travancore, and went into service of the royal palace as a young man. His capabilities and enthusiasm did not go unnoticed in the palace, and soon was put in charge of state affairs as an official under Ramayan Dalawa, the Dewan of Travancore. In 1741, Captain Eustachius Delanoy, a Dutch naval commander, was sent on command of a naval expedition by the Dutch East India Company with the objective of capturing and establishing a trading port at Colachel, a port under the control of Travancore. In the ensuing Battle of Colachel, fought between the Travancore forces and the Dutch were defeated. Delanoy's men were either killed or captured. Eustachius Delanoy and his assistant Donati surrendered and were imprisoned. Delanoy and the Dutchmen were later pardoned by the king on condition that they serve in the Travancore army. In the course of time, Delanoy earned the trust of the king and went on to become the commander of the Travancore army, the very forces that had earlier defeated him. He trained the Travancore forces on European lines and introduced new weaponry and gunpowder. As a military commander, he won many battles for Travancore, resulting in the annexation of various neighboring territories to Travancore. It was during their influential roles under the king of Travancore that Devasahayam Pillai and Delanoy became very well acquainted. Delanoy's Christian faith interested Devasahayam. Thus, Delanoy enlightened him on the faith, leading to Devasahayam Pillai's conversion in 1745. At this point, he took the name Devasahayam, which, when translated in English, means help of God, which is the translation into the Malayalam name of Lazarus. On Devasahayam's acceptance of the Christian faith, he was baptized at the Roman Catholic sub-parish church at the Vadakanakulam village in present-day Druvunelli district of Tamil Nadu, where the Jesuits had a mission under the Reverend Father R. Butari Idolus of the Social Jesuits. Nilakanda Pillai, his name at birth, was then changed to Lazar, or Lazarus, although he was more widely known by the Tamil and Malayalam translation of Devasahayam, meaning God's help. Pillai was married at this time to Bhagarvi Amal of Kunchu Vidu, from Kunchu Vidu, Ilanthavai Vilai Mayakodi in Travancore state. She was baptized alongside her husband as a matter of course. She was given the baptismal name Nanampu Anamal, flower of knowledge, equivalent to Teresa in Tamil and Malayalam. Fearing reprisal in her native Travancore against her religious conversion, she chose to become a migrant resident of the Vadakulam village. She and some other members of Devasahayam Pillai's immediate family also later received baptism. Church chroniclers say that the Brahmin chief priest of the kingdom, the feudal lords, members of the royal household, and the Nair community brought false charges on Devasahayam to the Dewan Ramayam Dalawa. The allegations were leaving Hinduism and stop following Hindu beliefs. Leaving Hinduism was a great offense because they were afraid Pillai was divested of his portfolio in the Travancore administration and was arrested. He remained in prison for 3 years, during which time the king of Travancore came under tremendous pressure from Europeans seeking his release. Orders were finally passed for him to go into exile. He was initially ordered to be seated backward on a buffalo, a public humiliation at the time, and paraded to the Kuzamakia border, where he would be released and could enter into the Dutch-controlled territory, or citadel fortress used for trading and shipping. The original royal order was later altered, and Devasahayam was taken back on the back of a buffalo to Aralvimosi border, which was much closer to the capital, Padmanabhuram, where he was tortured by 10 different royal officers, or Karayakas, on the advice of the ministers, before being released into the mountainous forest area, on the other side of which the kingdom of the Pandya kings, traditional rivals of the Travancore. Devasahayam Pillai was marched from Padmanabhuram Palace to Alversmori by soldiers over the period of a few days. Pillai was treated like a criminal, and was customary in those days for criminals his body painted with red and black spots, and was intentionally marched through the populated areas sitting backward on top of a water buffalo, the mythical vehicle or Ravana of Yama, the Lord of Death in Hinduism, through the streets of South Travancore. As a method of torture, he was beaten every day with 80 stripes, pepper rubbed in his wounds and nostrils, exposed to the sun, and was given only stagnant water to drink. While halting at Puliorkrichi, not far from the Padmanabhuram palace of the Travancore king, it is believed by Christians that God quenched his thirst by letting water gush through a small hole on a rock, on the very place where he knelt to pray. The water hole is still found in the compound of a church at Puliorchi, about 15 kilometers from Nagarkoil. It is also believed that the leaves of a neem or margosa tree in the village of Pillai, to which he had been tied while being marched to Alvermosi, cured illnesses of sick people in the village and around. Many more miracles were attributed to Devasahayam Pillai. In 1752, the original order of the king and his Dewan was to deport him from Travancore into the Pandya country at Aralvamosi. He was led off in the forested hills near that city, where he is believed to have begun deep meditations, and the people from the adjacent villages began visiting the holy man. Christian sources allege at this time high-caste Hindus plotted to do away with Devasahayam. Some people believe that the soldiers went up the forested hills and tried to shoot Devasahayam, but were unable to fire, after which he took the gun into his hands, blessed it, and gave it back to the soldiers to shoot him to death, if they wished to. The soldiers took the gun back and fired him 5 times. His body was then carelessly thrown out near the foothills of Kadamandalai. It was at Kadamandalai in Kanaranki district that Devasahayam Pillai died on January 14th, 1752. Pillai's body was later recovered by some people of the region and carried to the church at Kotar in present-day Nagarkoil. His mortal remains were interred near the altar inside St. Xavier's Church, Kotar, Nagarkoil, which is now the diocesan cathedral. Since the days of his interment in the mortal remains of Devasahayam Pillai, many Christian pilgrims have visited his tomb and offered prayers. In 2004, at the request of the Diocese of Kotar, the Tamil Nadu Bishops' Council, or the TNBC, and the Conference of Catholic Bishops of India, CCBI, recommended Pillai for the process of beatification. Some Hindu organizations objected to this initiative, claiming that there is no evidence of religious persecution in Travancore during the given period, and that Pillai was executed for sedition. However, documents dating back to the period encompassing Pillai's lifetime show that the religious conversion of court officials to Christianity was not tolerated. On June 28, 2012, Pope Benedict XVI authorized the Congregation for the Causes of Saints to promulgate a decree regarding martyrdom for Pillai, and was granted the title Venerable. On December 2nd of that year, a ceremony of beatification and a declaration of martyrdom was held in Nagarcoil, in the Diocese of Kotar, in southern India, presided by Cardinal Angelo Amato, prefect of the Congregation for the Causes of Saints, acting as the papal delegate. Pillai was the first Indian layman who was not part of a religious institute to be elevated to the rank of blessed, the step preceding the recognition of a person being known as a saint, as per the canon law of the Catholic Church. On February 21st, 2020, Pope Francis recognized a miracle attributed to the intercession of Devasahayam, clearing his way to canonization. He is the first Catholic in India who is neither an ordained minister nor a religious to be officially recognized as a saint. The Vatican announced on November 9th, 2021, that Pope Francis would formally canonize him on May 15th, 2022. On the fifth Sunday of Easter, May 15th, 2022, the Pope raised Devasahayam Pillai to sainthood, along with 9 other candidates. According to the report submitted by the then Bishop of Cochin, under whom the Karnamaki Church was then functioning, in 1756 AD, the Christian martyrdom of Devasahayam Pillai was intimated to the Vatican. Prominent witnesses to his saintliness and martyrdom included Parmakal Toma Kantar. In 1780, Kartil Usep Mapan submitted a petition to the Vatican for canonization of Devasahayam Pillai. The church historian C. M. Agur concluded in 1903 that although apostasy was never considered illegal in Travancore, it was not viewed indifferently, particularly in the case of the king's palace servants, and this led to the martyrdom of Devasahayam Pillai. In 1984, a group of laypersons from the Diocese of Kotar, especially the members of the Nagarcoil Catholic Club, once again took the initiative to seek the beatification of Devasahayam. This is unusual for a layman, but he is regarded as one of those who was totally devoted to Christ. At the beginning of the 21st century, many Christian devotees were offering prayers at his tomb in St. Xavier's Cathedral in Kotar. After a series of initiatives by the Roman Catholic Diocese of Kotar, and after much deliberation, the Catholic Conference Bishops of India and the Tamil Nadu Bishops' Council duly recommended his beatification in the year 2004. This was done following scrutiny of available historical evidence. Bishop Chrysostom said that the CCBI did not intend any controversy whatsoever in moving this forward. Professor A. Sridhar Menon, noted historian and writer on Travancore, said that in no cases of persecution in the name of religious conversion were recorded in the history of the kingdom. Professor P. Paraswan, president of the Hindu spiritual organization Vivekananda Kendra, accused the CCBI of an attempt to hurt Hindu sentiments. Referring to the Travancore State Manual, he insisted that Devasahayam was a palace employee who was executed after a confirmation of sedition, because he had tampered with palace records and passed them to Illinois. However, Catholic records of the state the kingdom at the time state that the Kingdom of Travancore did not tolerate palace officials converting to Christianity. In June 2012, Pope Benedict XVI officially recognized a decree from the Congregation of the Causes of Saints, stating that he lived a life of heroic virtues, a major step towards beatification, and then was referred to as a venerable. Devasahayam Pillai was declared a martyr and blessed on December 2nd, 2012, at a solemn state ceremony held in the Diocese of Kotar, as I said. Several cardinals, archbishops, and bishops from India and elsewhere, as well as numerous priests, religious men and women, and over 100,000 Catholics from all over India participated in the grand ceremony, which included a solemn pontifical mass. Among the dignitaries officiating at the altar were Cardinal Angelo Amato, Cardinal Oswald Gracias, the Archbishop of Mumbai, Cardinal Telesphore P. Topo, Archbishop of Ranchi, Cardinal George Alancherry, Major Archbishop of Syro-Malabar Catholic Church, Basilius Klimis, Major Archbishop of Syro-Malankara Catholic Church, Archbishop Salvatore Panaccio, Apostolic Nuncio to India, and Bishop Peter Remigius, the then Bishop of Kotar. Devasahayam Pillai, as I said, was the first lay person from India to be beatified by the Catholic Church. On that same day, Pope Benedict XVI addressed the pilgrims gathered in Rome, and during his Angelus message, the Pope mentioned the event in Italian and in English. He first said this in Italian, quote, "Today in Kotar, India, Devasahayam Pillai, a faithful layman who lived in the 18th century and died a martyr, was proclaimed blessed. Let us join in the joy of the Church in India and pray that this newly beatified sustain the faith of the Christians of that great and noble country." And then addressed in English, "I welcome all gathered here today to pray with me. I especially greet the people of Kotar who celebrate today the beatification of Devasahayam Pillai. His witness to Christ is an example of that of attentiveness to the coming of Christ, recalled by this first Sunday of Advent. May this holy season help us to center our lives once more on Christ, our hope. God bless you." On the 21st of November 2020, Pope Francis recognized a miracle, as I said, through the intercession of Devasahayam. The Vatican announced on November 9th, 2021, that a canonization ceremony would be held on May 15th in 2022. This canonization and that of 8 others took place in St. Peter's Square on that date.